Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. We've talked a few times behind the scenes, and I was so excited to come over here and have a conversation with you. And I think what you're doing is great.
Officer. Out of all the professions, you decided to be an officer. Why?
Ah, that magical question. So let me tell you, I had no initial desire to be a police officer. It was never like something that kind of was just like, hey, this is what you should do. It kind of happened by, I won't say by accident. I think it was divine purpose. Oh shoot! Shout out to
Mhm.
TLA. All right,
Yeah, wow.
that's one. That's yeah.
Friendsgiving.
Yeah. Shout out to TLA. That's the man right
Yeah.
there. So how did I get into it? You
Mm-hmm.
know, honestly, I had never had really had a desire to be a police officer. It just kind of unfolded into a thing. I will say this though, I think what made me such a great officer was that I really love people. I love people. I love helping people. I like serving people. That's always been something that's very natural, very or like instinctive in me. So, if I saw someone in help, I'd always stop. I'd always stop. As a kid, going into adulthood, it didn't matter if I saw someone in need, homeless person, a person whose car broke down. I'm always helping. I love to see people happy,
Okay.
and one would say that's how my parents raised me. You know, to be a servant to others. I think a lot of that too piggybacks off my faith. As a Christian, and then the
Mm-hmm.
rest of it is my personality. I will say, as a kid, I've always had a very strong sense of justice, a very strong sense of morality, and virtue. And that was something that was kind of taught by, family, of course. My father, I have to shout out my father. A lot of times we don't talk too much about the dads, but my
Absolutely.
dad was very big on integrity. So was my mom. My mom taught me how to love people, to be honest. And I think what ended up happening at the time I was in high school, I was working at the hospital, and there were some police officers that would constantly come up to the hospital. They had cases and things like that. They would work, and I would help gather information for them so they can have it to do their paperwork and stuff like that. Well, one day an officer came up to me and was like, "Hey, Nathan, you're a really great guy." I was like 19 at the time. He said, "You're a great guy. You're a great guy. So we need more good officers. In this department, we're looking to hire. You would be a great officer." Now, growing up, I watched all the cop shows, right? I watched Cops, Cops, like the that reality cop show, the one with the whole
Mm-hmm.
Bob Marley song.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. So I was addicted to that. I loved it. And then, oh, shout out to JB. Shout out to JB.
Mm-hmm.
Like a chocolate snack. Yes. Gail, you are gorgeous, Gail. First of all, let's pause. Let's pause.
I'm putting my head up now.
Ah, nah, Gail, hold on, Gail. You are gorgeous, Gail. I've never seen you before, so this is my first time. I was like, okay, hold on. Yeah, so shout out to JB. He's right. The whole chocolate snack. I agree. I have to second that. Beautiful smile too. Um, so let's dive. JB throwing me off topic. So
Yeah.
he said he's a smooth cat. So what ended up happening was, they kind of hyped me up and said, "Hey, you have such a great personality. I think you'd be great for this profession." And I didn't think so.
Mm-hmm.
So I never thought about it before, but I've had good experiences with police officers. I spent some time, grew up in California when they were big pushing the DARE program, the DARE. And so it was just like this anti-drug, anti-gang program. And we had police officers come to the school all the time, and the police officers were amazing, black, white, Hispanic officers. So I had a very positive encounter with officers at a young age. And even growing up too, my mom never said anything bad about police. She did teach me how to actually interact with them, but it was never anything negative, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when they made this thing, there was a movie that came out, Bad Boys with Martin Lawrence and stuff.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That was a big influence. So I was like, yeah, I want to be like, Mike Larry. So I decided to sign up. I looked into it. I signed up for like three different police departments, and I found the one that came back the quick was DeKalb County Police Department here in Georgia. And I went ahead and signed up and got right to it. And I honestly, I never told anybody this, but I wanted to quit. You guys, like after kind of going through the academy, it was 2 times in there. I was like, yeah, I don't think this is for me. Yeah, and I'm gonna quit. But that's how I got into it. Someone stopped me. They told me that I'd be a great a great candidate for the profession. And
Uh-huh.
I've always had like a fascination for law enforcement, but never had the desire for it. And then that's how I jumped in. I got in, and it was a wild ride, literally. Literally. I'm a police officer. I'm a police
Mhm.
officer. My job is to think of others before I think of myself. Am I willing to sacrifice myself for the safety and well-being of others? And if you can't make that decision, you're in the wrong profession. You
Absolutely.
know, for me, I love people. I love to see people happy. I'm a little bit sensitive when I see people suffering. That's the type of officer people really want. I mean, you got to be tough when you need to be tough, but then you need to be caring, empathetic when those times present themselves.
Right.
So I would say, for the most part,
I know, like back in the day, the police officers used to live in the neighborhood that they policed, and
yeah,
now they often don't. Do you think
no.
that there is that's a reason why they do the bad cops, quote unquote, um, or bad cop because they're not in the neighborhood that they live in, but not police
Um,
would?
yeah, there's pros and cons. So you made a good point. Um, Officers who live in the community they serve. See, I went to school in DeKalb County,
Mm-hmm.
so I knew the area really well. I knew the people. And there's pros and cons for that. And I'm gonna tell people that if you're tasked, mind you, I worked in a predominantly Black community. You're tasked to enforce laws on your own people. You live amongst the people you're enforcing laws on. If people find out where you live at, it could be problematic as an officer,
That's
right?
true.
And
Mm-hmm.
so that's the caveat. That's the thing people don't ever want to talk about. It's like, hey, we need our police to live in our communities and serve so they know, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But if little Tyrone, right, the drug dealer down the street or the gangbanger down the street finds out where you live at and you arrested his friends last week, that could be problematic for an officer. So sometimes officers not wanting to live in the community isn't because they don't feel like they can support the community per se. More so, it's because it's a safety issue. You know, because when I lived and worked in my community, what are the things I had to do? I was wearing a baseball cap out. I'd wear a jacket. I'd try to be undercover just to go to the grocery store.
Oh
And you get
wow.
paranoid. People don't see this part because we come in contact with thousands of people every single week. And then you're arresting people every single week. Every day you're taking someone to jail, you're pulling your gun out, you're chasing folks. They find out where you live at, they retaliate. They retaliate. He said, "What high school did he go to?" Yeah, I went to Stevenson. Yeah, I went to Stevenson High School, and in DeKalb County. Boy, DeKalb County is crazy. So there are pros and cons, Gail.
Mhm.
And what a lot of people don't like to talk about are within our community. There's some segments in the Black community that, we're very difficult to deal with. We don't like authority, and
Mhm.
we could be pretty violent amongst each other, and not even just towards police officers, just amongst each other in general. So it can be very dangerous. To be honest, I've seen it happen. I've seen officers.
Mhm.
I've had cases where officers were followed home. Where their cars were vandalized, their homes were broken into. So guys are like, man, I don't want to live in the county I'm working because I'm a target. I don't feel comfortable going to restaurants. Folks remember it. Listen, you lock somebody up, they never forget you. And this is why I'm big on treating people with respect. I don't care what crime you committed, because there's going to be a day where you might catch me slipping at the gas station, you know,
Mhm.
and you look at me and like, hey, I remember that guy. So I have a thing where I'm always treating people with respect. And I have conversations with people. I'll pray for them, all on our way to jail. And I'm always giving people, if I have guys in the back seat, I'm always giving them advice and say, hey, listen, I know you committed armed robbery, but this doesn't define you. You have an opportunity to change directions, change, your life around. So don't think that this is it, right? So when they see me, they're like, hey, that's that asshole cop that arrested me, right?
Yeah.
But he was cool. He was cool. And that's the type of interaction I like to have. And so um, back in the day, and I don't know the exact dates off the top of my head, but as we know, during you know, after doing, I would say in the 60s, I think it's safe to say in the 60s, when I forgot what year it was. I'm gonna have to look that up though. I might have to do a show on it too. When
Mhm.
officers were patrolling in the beginning, when black officers were allowed to be police, or when black people were allowed to be police officers, they weren't given guns. They didn't have guns or cars. They weren't allowed to have guns. So, but they patrolled their own communities because white people didn't want to patrol them, and black people weren't allowed to. They weren't allowed. With the towers. Oh my God, TLA with the towers. Hey, hey, everybody in the chat, we need to give TLA a round of applause. That man made it at Towers and then became an attorney. Listen, you guys don't know how crazy that school was. Yeah, he went to Towers. That school's different. That school's. I forgot JB's down here too. You guys, we need to link up.
No. I me and Jonathan did link up, and TLA was watching us, you know.
Yeah. No, that is, yes, Melissa. Gail is looking gorgeous. Gail, your smile. You need to be on the cover of Ebony magazine. Stop playing. Predominantly black police department is in Atlanta. I tell people all the time when we talk about, hey, do we need more black officers in the community? Yeah, it makes an impact. It makes a difference if you have all black police officers patrolling all black areas. Of course, there's a difference. But I tell people all the time, it's not the difference that you think it will have. People are still going to be shot, right? Criminals are still going to have bad outcomes with the police, because you can't change the police and you don't change the mentality of the people that are being policed, you know? And so that's like a big thing. And even though I think black officers are going to have a different approach to the community they're serving, because we look like each other, that matters. It matters a lot. But if we don't address the mentality of the people that you're actually serving, then you're not going to solve any problems. It's not like because there's all black police officers that crime is going to stop, right? Just because all black police officers are serving a black community, that the criminals are going to respect the police. Because I worked with an all black police department where my entire shift was black. And then we're patrolling and listen, we're having the same problems. The crime didn't stop. The crime didn't change because there was an all black police force. So the question then lies, if it's not the police, then okay, what's going on in our communities that we need to address? The homes. What goes on in our homes is man, you guys haven't seen these homes. You know, you haven't seen these homes. And so when we talk about a good police officer and a bad police officer, the problem with law enforcement is people. The idea of policing itself is beautiful. The concept is beautiful. It's like, oh, you know, you do this thing, you do this thing. It's a beautiful thing. What is the issue? The issue is the people are bad. We're not picking the right people to do this profession. You know, people always say bad apples, but the reality is there's bad apples in all professions. The issue with law enforcement, though, overall, is that there's not a good filtration process. They haven't figured out a good way to actually choose better. I always tell people, what's the difference between a homosexual, an atheist, a devil worshiper, a Christian, a Muslim, a pedophile, a gangster, a drug dealer, a preacher? I said, what's the difference? You know? Or what do they have in common? They're all police officers. And if I told you that I know a police officer who was a Satanist, you wouldn't believe me. That's a religion, right? So this guy puts on a uniform, he's a police officer, and he believes in the devil, right? Like almost he believes. Who does he worship? Who does he worship? Right. One would add, can you be completely biased? What is the problem with law enforcement? When you don on this uniform, can you be biased? How do we know you're not biased? I feel like that's the problem. The problem is we're having the wrong conversation. Because though I'm a Christian, we know that really doesn't mean much. If you don't practice, if you don't believe, right? I'm a Christian and you got stones and rocks and you talking about the moon and the stars, right? Like, so is it a religious thing? No. Right. And this is the thing. This is the thing. I've met police officers a lady who was a witch. You know, she practiced Wicca. So it was like, piss her off if you want to, right? She get a strand of your hair. What's going to happen? I know officers who practice voodoo, and they got the uniform on. So the question is, hey, can you suppress that long enough to do the job? Can you get rid of that stuff in order to do the job and focus on law? Because what does it mean to be a police officer? Or what happens when you're a police officer? A lot of people who don't have the character, they're not built for it. What do they end up doing? Thank you. What did Andrea say? Police brutality has no color. It doesn't, because what ends up happening? What ends up happening? When you're enforcing the law as a police officer, you're enforcing the law through your personality. You're enforcing the law through your culture, through your religion. That's the bias. There's no way to get rid of it. So when people say, oh, you need bias training, you can't get rid of the bias, you guys. You can't. It's impossible. Listen, I had a conversation with my friend yesterday. You know, he had a tragedy in his family due to the hands of a police officer. And he respects me as someone who loves police. Like, I love the police. I love the right kind of police. And on my channel, I'll talk about, you know, I'm pro-police and I'm pro-Black. Make it make sense. We need Black officers. We need good people in this profession. And just because you're Black, people say, oh, you're Black, you're Uncle Tom, you're a cop, you're a sellout. You know, we don't want to be a part of the criminal justice system because we feel like it's hurting our people.
This is Gail at Night. Thank you all for watching, and thank you for supporting. Be sure to click the like button and subscribe, hit the notification bell, and set the bell to all.